Here we go. Hi and welcome to Book Talk Radio. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to author David H. Fears. David is the author of the Mike Angel PI series, a hardboiled detective and the main character in the Dark series books. Hi David, thank you for coming on to Book Talk Radio. How are you today?
I'm fine. Welcome.
Good.
You know, somebody once told me that only hair and sandpaper are fine, so I don't know why I say I'm fine, but there it is.
I hear hardboiled detective and immediately think of Humphrey Bogart as Sam Spade or Philip Marlowe and Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer. Were these guys inspiration for the character of Mike Angel?
Well, I guess the whole subgenre was inspiration. The Big Sleep with Bogart and, of course, the Maltese Falcon by Hammett.
Yeah.
Those were somewhat inspirational because I had seen them before, but I didn't start out with those characters in mind. I wanted my protagonist to be somewhat different, not the grisly old 50-year-old dissolute male, but I wanted to be a younger model of that who got thrown into it, sort of.
Okay, well that's interesting. The women on the book covers of the Mike Angel series would appear to be the modern-day version of the hard-boiled detective's girlfriend or the victim in the story. There's always one. So who is the main dame in Mike Angel's life and the inspiration behind her?
Well, you know, you don't really put a whole person in a novel. You put scraps of them, and I would have to say my lovely young wife of 30-some-odd years was some of the inspiration for Molly Bennett, who wasn't his main squeeze right away, but kind of grew into that over time. The story starts in New York, New Jersey, where he first meets Molly because her boss was murdered on a case, and she has a particular girlishness and sort of a mix of moxie and vulnerability that struck him. But there's always a different femme fatale or main woman in some of these stories, sometimes tempting, sometimes not.
Right. Now they're interesting because I always think of Lauren Bacall. You know, you see her and she always strikes me as the perfect squeeze, as you call it, or the perfect dame for this kind of stories.
Well, I did use a voice like Bacall's and referenced her a couple times, but I also referenced Dorothy Malone in The Big Sleep with Bogart.
Right.
If you remember that scene in the bookshop where she pulls down the shade and it fades out.
Sure, I remember that. Absolutely. I love those films, and I love the books.
I don't believe too much in fade-outs, but that's one of the ways these are different.
Okay. So where does the genre hard-boiled detective come from?
Well, it came out of... you can trace the roots back into the 20s, and I'm not sure who first came up with that line. Probably some smart-ass British journalist, I would guess. I don't know. You know, the prototypical PI is one man in the gritty streets against corruption and crime and all those things.
Sure.
So he really is taken from the old westerns, who was one man trying to clean up Dodge City or whatever.
Okay, that's interesting.
And of course, because he's up against things, we root for him.
Absolutely.
So it's a natural to get the readers to want to know what happens to him and to cheer for him.
Yeah. So
and sometimes you have to be a little nasty to be effective, and I think a lot of these PIs that you mentioned, and in my stories, they have that toughness, and they have that special code that they work by that is worthwhile.
Actually, that leads perfectly into the next question. I was going to say, what makes a hard-boiled detective different from today's fictional detectives, do you think?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Because these are set in the 60s and 70s, I often refer to a couple of television series, Joe Mannix, and also the Rockford Files with, can't think of the name of the star.
James Garner.
Very popular.
Yeah, it was James Garner.
James Garner, right? And no relation to Jennifer, but I don't think. Anyway, I think you've got the whole PC thing that messes everything up, and I think that today's detectives are a little bit influenced by that, or at least try to work around those obstacles.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I loved about writing these is that the PC was out the window, and I didn't have to be PC, and didn't want to be PC, and was born, grew up in the 50s and 60s, so I remember those years, each of them very vividly, especially the 60s.
Sure.
And I wanted to, because I was a historian, I wanted to make them historically accurate in some ways as well.
Right, yeah, because you bring a lot of the things that happened and the historical things that happened into your stories, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting read. It brings it to life, I would say.
Your next questions are off a little bit, but I'll follow them as well as I can.
Okay, well, thank you. So I said the Mike Angel series is set in Portland, Oregon, so I'm not correct there?
No, they start, and the first one's in New York, New Jersey, goes to Chicago for 3 or 4 episodes.
Right.
Novels, and then it comes to Portland, but Portland is his base of operation. And from there he does cases that spread to Las Vegas and Nevada, the famous Area 51.
Sure.
And even in Washington and Billington and up into Canada.
He gets around.
Pardon?
I said he gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, that's where the cases lead him, and he has to do a bit of traveling.
Right.
So they start off in the 60s because this was before political correctness, and it was in the time when America was in big social upheavals, and we had the assassinations of both Kennedy and King, and it was a kind of a terrifying time to live through.
Sure.
Kent State shootings and a lot of rebellion, and we can thank Nixon for part of that anyway.
Of course, of the missile crisis as well. Okay. So tell me, what's next for David H. Fears and Mike Angel? Is it going to be a number 20?
Well, every time I've done one of these since about 12 on, I've thought, I've finished that, and the series will probably over, and then a kernel gets into my head, or an opener, or a sentence, or something I see, and I take off on the next one. You need to go down to Marseille or someplace to deal with that cough.
I know. Sorry about that.
I spent a little time in Avignon and Marseille and Paris back in 78.
Okay.
Anyway, I think there will be a number 20 because the opener's already been bugging me every morning when I get up.
Yeah.
And I haven't imagined where it's going. I like to see a scene in my head.
Right.
And I've seen the opener scene in my head, and I know what the dialogue is going to be and who the character is going to be in it. But I don't have it any farther than that. So I guess to answer your question, I'm only doing another one when I'm kind of forced internally to do it.
Yeah, it just kind of bursts out of you, doesn't it, with the books?
One plus about doing a series is that after a while you know what your main characters are going to do and say to almost any situation.
Right.
They become real people to you.
Sure, they become entities.
Exactly.
Oh, excuse me, I had flu last weekend. So where can Book Talk Radio listeners purchase your books?
Well, you can get the e-books on either Amazon or Smashwords. Smashwords is the distributor. I don't know if it works over in your area, but
yes,
they send the books to places like Sony and just about a bunch of little ones that you probably haven't heard of. But it keeps the author from having to deal with all of those places, those venues directly.
Yeah, I know, because I publish my own books as well. I use Draft to Digital, which is very similar to Smashwords.
Well, Draft to Digital has a few of my short stories on it. I kind of stuck my toe in the water there to see if they were any better than Smashwords. I don't really think they are, but none of the Mike Angel books are there. You can get the paperbacks, which I've published through CreateSpace.
Okay.
And I don't sell that many of those, but I have a collection of them here, and I give them out for gifts.
Oh dear, sorry. Okay, well, thank you, David. That was fascinating. Please come back on Book Talk Radio when you've published your next book. I mean, I can stop coughing. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio. Bye, David.
Is that it?
That's it, thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.